Time for power and politics, but largely time for the daily report, because news is our business first, and then we get to power and politics, where we engage specialists and pundits as to current affairs. And of course, I'll be telling you shortly what we discuss this evening. It's an honor having you. I'll be sitting in for our very own George Maringa, who is out on assignment, but of course we are able to steer the ship forward. Karibuni sana. My name is Alela. I'll be assisted on the other side by a sign language interpreter, Rhoda Nyamai. Lots lined up for you as to news, but the recent agreement between President William Ruto and Raila Odinga then continues, of course, to have lots of spark lots of discussions right here in the country. And of course, their main focus being the implementation of the NADCO report, promote inclusivity in governance, strengthen devolution, tackle youth unemployment, as well as fight corruption. And of course, this is seen by many as a political hoax, while others see it as a step towards national unity. We continue to ask just what way forward for Kenya. And so tonight, of course, as I have said, I'll be sitting in for George Maringa as we engage great brains. We pick their brains. That is the brain of Wakili Willis Otieno of Safina Party. Also, we commonly know him as Piki Piki Ponke, and we'll be talking to Honorable Member of East African Legislative Assembly, that is none other than David Ole Sankok, and we'll also have Arnold Maliba, who's the party leader, Progress Plus Alliance. The last time I engaged Maliba, he was not a party leader. He was actually, a communication strategist of the current party that is reigning. So we want to understand why the shift, but largely we get to hear his view on what the handshake is all about. And of course, it's a conversation that you do not want to miss out on. So we welcome you to be part of the conversation. The hashtag, as always, is the daily report. 22047 is the SMS short code. I'll be sampling some of your comments as we continue with the broadcast. Indeed, a conversation that you do not want to miss out on this cold Monday evening. It's my hope that you're keeping warm. Here are the highlights. Top on the daily report. Leaders from Narok and Kisii counties meet over the ongoing skirmishes in Transmara. One person has been arrested so far. And government denies claims that the Bomas of Kenya has been sold to a Turkish national. Also tonight, President William Ruto kicks off his week-long tour of the city, days after signing a working pact with ODM's Raila Odinga.
Waswahili wanasema umoja ni nguvu, kutengana ni udhaifu. Mimi nawauliza jameni, kwa nyenyekevu mkubali tuungane. Munataka tuungane ama tutengane?
And thousands of farmers flocked the National Cereals and Produce Board stores across the country after the rains begin.
Tumelima lakini mbegu ndio ilikuwa shida, mbolea pia bado iko kwa bei ya juu.
And the daily report begins right away. We go straight to it. Governors from Kisii and Narok counties today held a crucial meeting with the warring communities at the Transmara border. The meeting comes as the death toll following the Transmara clashes witnessed last week stands at 3, and dozens others injured and recuperating in various hospitals. So far, one suspect has been arrested as investigations continue or into the clashes commence, as Sheila Chelangat details.
What began as a dispute over stolen livestock here at Kiango at the border between Transmara and Kisii spiraled into a deadly conflict for the better part of last week, leaving 3 dead and dozens injured. The trail of destruction is clearly visible. Acres of sugarcane plantations set ablaze, schools forced to close as families fled their homes in fear of further attacks. And as the tension simmers, leaders from both regions on Monday heeded to calls for them to step in and lead talks between the warring factions.
Wale wazee wa border committee, both Kisii na Narok, nawaomba ng'ombe ikipotea ikifuatwa imefika pale, kabla vita ijatokea, kabla mtu yeyote hajafanya vita. Chiefs na border committee, jua kwamba hiyo ng'ombe imepatikana ama bado. Ikikosekana, wacha county commissioner ajue.
According to Kisii County Commander Joseph Kibet, one suspect has been arrested after a sting operation Thursday night as investigations into the clashes commences.
Kama uko na shamba na iko pande hii ya Narok na umekuwa umesikizana na mwenzako Masaini ya kwamba umko na agreement, kutoka kesho wewe uendelea na shamba yako, sasa hakuna mtu atakugusa.
For the residents, today's peace talks offers a glimmer of hope as many now begin the journey of rebuilding their lives. Sheila Chelangat for TV47.
All right, now the government has disregarded former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagwa's recent claims that Bomas of Kenya has been sold to a Turkish national, terming the claims as false, reckless and deliberately misleading. The State Department of Culture, Arts and Heritage dismissed Gachagwa, stating that the ownership of the government-owned facility has not changed. This, as Moige William reports.
Monday, government broke its silence to respond to the new array of allegations raised by former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagwa. This time round, Head of Presidential Special Projects and Creative Economy Dennis Itumbi and the Principal Secretary for Culture, Art and Heritage Omar Bashir burdened to take on the self-proclaimed truthful man. Itumbi will be the first to take on Gachagua, referring to his allegations that a Turkish national is the new owner of Bomas as a desperate attempt to mislead the public with the intention to derail national progress. The head of special projects will further in his statement reveal that all that was happening at the facility is undergoing modernization to become a global conference and cultural hub, adding that, contrary to Gachagua's statements, there has been no discussion, proposal or intention to sell Bomas of Kenya to any foreign entity. In what is seen as a coordinated effort to dismiss Gachagua, Principal Secretary in charge of Culture, Heritage and Arts, Bashir Omar, also released a statement which was in sync as that of Itumbi, highlighting that the government was investing in the facility's expansion to include an 11,000-seater modern arena, providing a much-needed plug-and-play venue for Kenya's thriving creative industry. At the same time, Itumbi challenged Gachagua's repeatedly claims that he opposed various government projects in cabinet. Itumbi accusing Gachagua of what he termed as political dishonesty, saying records show he supported the project during cabinet meetings. Itumbi claiming that Gachagua is on record during a cabinet meeting held in Sagana on August 8, 2023, acknowledging that it was unfortunate the facility had been neglected for decades. On Sunday, Gachagua had made claims that Bomas of Kenya had changed ownership to a Turkish national who is a close friend to someone powerful in this country.
We are on our own, Reverend, as a country. William Ruto would do whatever he was in this country. There is not a single person. I was the only remaining person. Ni Mungu peke yake atatusaidia.
Gachagua also claimed that some prison land had been sold. Moige William, TV47.
Mashamba yote ya jela, yote imeuzwa.
Now, the multimedia university students for the better part of the day blocked Magadi Road while protesting the death of a second-year student. Students claim that their colleague was killed in a hit-and-run incident along the recently recarpeted road. And our police claim that the second-year student was found dead on Sunday. For the better part of Monday, the students engaged police in running battles after barricading the road and paralyzing transport along the busy road. They are now demanding that the road be marked and speed bumps erected.
Leo tunaandamana kwa sababu ya mmoja wetu ambaye alipata kuuawa hapo Sunday jioni, alipatikana. Sasa kisa cha kuuawa kwake hatujaelewa hadi sahihi. Kwa hivyo we demanding justice for our own and we want at least they disclose the information to us, how it went down, alikufa aje and how he was found akiwa kwa barabara, akiwa amekufa. Kwa hivyo leo hii tumekuja hapa, tunataka justice. We want justice for able our colleague Lamek Mwangi.
Jana early in the morning around 4 kulikuwa na accident, a hit and run pale kwa ule mlima pale. It involved a student, a second year student. It was attended to Unfortunately, the student had succumbed. Investigation is ongoing. Now, this is the trigger. Kazi yetu ni kuwarudisha ndani na kufungua barabara na kuzuia pia wa damage magari. But we have been injured. Several of my officers have been injured. But we are really restraining ourselves. Tuna restrain sana.
President William Ruto this morning commenced a 3-day development tour of Nairobi County, days after he signed a working formula with former Prime Minister Alela Odinga, projected to aid government execute its development plan. In his first day in Nairobi, the head of state commissioned Kamukunji Technical Vocational College, emphasizing his commitment to expanding TVET institutions to equip more young people with technical skills essential for Kenya's development. Mike Agungu with the details of that.
Wapi nduru ya vijana wa Isli nisikie?
Barely a week after a political agreement between President William Ruto and his former political rival Raila Odinga, the head of state, in what seemed to be a strategy to popularize the partnership, commenced his 3-day tour of Nairobi County, commissioning a number of development projects. Traversing Nairobi's Kamukunji constituency Monday morning, the head of state officially opened the Kamukunji Technical and Vocational College, where he reaffirmed his commitment to establish TVET institutions in order to provide more youth with technical know-how necessary for Kenya's progress.
Hii college iko na wanafunzi 500. Lakini tunataka wanafunzi zaidi. Tunataka wanafunzi 2,000 zaidi waingie kwa hii college.
With the institution set to be expanded, the head of state pledged 50 million shillings to support the expansion, with construction set to begin by June 2025.
Hii college tutawapatia milioni 50 ingine tujenge college ya electrical, tujenge college ya building technology na tujenge college ya automotive technology.
During the launch of Nairobi Rivers Engineering Works in Kamukunji constituency, the head of state said the Nairobi Rivers Regeneration Project will provide labor opportunities to more than 40,000 youths through the Climate Works program. Currently, 22,000 youths are engaged and another 18,000 will be incorporated in Kenya Kwanza government's plan to create job opportunities.
Tuko na vijana 22,000 tayari. Lakini mimi natangaza hapa leo ya kwamba tutaongeza vijana wengine 18,000 waungane katika mradi huu.
Ruto will likely highlight the importance of his partnership with Odinga and its potential advantages for the nation's development trajectory during his Nairobi tour, which serves as an early evaluation of the recent political alignment.
Katika muungano huo, hakuna mtu atawachwa nyuma, hakuna jamii itawachwa nyuma, hakuna sehemu ya Kenya itawachwa nyuma, hakuna dini itawachwa nyuma.
As part of the agreement, both parties pledged to collaborate on national development projects and identify areas of bipartisan cooperation. The launch of Nairobi Rivers Engineering Works officially opens President William Ruto's Nairobi County tour, projected to benefit 17 constituencies in his development plan for his Kenya Kwanza government. Mike Kagwango, TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Mike, for that. Some more on politics. Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka has made fresh claims, alleging that there is a special squad complete with a doctor that is state-sponsored and behind abduction cases witnessed in the country. Kalonzo's assertions followed the sudden return of Wajia's Delaware MCA, Yusuf Hussein, whose 6-month disappearance is still clocked with secrecy. The Wiper leader, who paid Yusuf a visit at the Nairobi hospital where he is currently being treated for an unnamed illness, Kalonzo calling for the observance of the rule of law and strict adherence to the Constitution.
Know that there's a special squad complete with a doctor. They are meant to drink water. That's the one thing the doctors there tell them, drink a lot of water. By 1 meal a day, make you drink a lot of water. That is why Mheshimiwa Yusuf came out alive. And if you have a setup, and that's why we say this is all state-sponsored, because which other people can afford the services of a doctor? Okay, state-sponsored terrorism. Now, as you release them, like Mheshimiwa Yusuf, as you release them, and we say, please release them. No, it's not please. You have no option but to release them. But then we also want those abductors identified, prosecuted. We are not going to accept the issue of compensation, for example. Before you talk compensation, bring the perpetrators to book, charge them in open court.
The United Democratic Alliance Party has announced its Phase 2 primaries in 2022 or in 22 counties scheduled for 11th and 12th April this year. The party noted that so far over 113,000 candidates have been approved to contest in the upcoming party primaries. And as Joash Onsari now reports, the party has acquired 10,000 gadgets to facilitate an open, free and fair elections.
The ruling party announced its readiness for Phase 2 of its primaries after months of deliberations. The primary is now set for 11th and 12th of April this year.
These elections represent a pivotal moment in our journey towards strengthening democracy in our nation. Grassroots elections are vital in ensuring that the voices of our communities are heard and represented.
Addressing the media in Nairobi, the party's National Steering Committee, together with the National Elections Board, have reported that so far 113,800 candidates have been approved to contest in the selected 22 counties for Phase 2 elections.
The registration for candidates is now open and will remain available until the Friday 21st March 2025 at midnight. Interested members are urged to register through our online portal uda.ke.
Among the counties that have been selected for the April exercise include Bungoma, Garissa, Isiolo, Kilifi, Kisumu, Kisii, Kitui, Kwale, Lamu and Mombasa.
So this is part of making the party stronger and planning for the future. Political parties must establish their presence across the country.
The party officials have noted that the party will ensure open, free and fair elections with timely results.
Tutakuwa na uchaguzi wa huru, uchaguzi wa usawa na tutatumia njia ya elektroniki ambapo moja kwa moja pale mkishamaliza uchaguzi mtaweza kupata majibu. Hakuna mambo ya maajenti.
Last year's UDA party grassroots elections was marred by delays, confusion, rigging claims in some parts of West Pokot, Nairobi and Narok counties. So far, UDA party has conducted grassroots elections in 5 counties. Joash Onsare, TV47, Nairobi.
People are fighting for their lives at the Samburu County Referral Hospital after suffering gunshot wounds at the chest and head, with one fatally injured in a Sunday night shop attack that sparked protest at BAMBA town. Willie Dennis Jiru with that.
Monday morning, businesses in Wamba Town, Samburu East Sub-County were paralyzed as an irate business community and locals took to the streets in protest over rising cases of insecurity. Night, criminals fatally injured a businessman, leaving 2 of his workers nursing gunshot wounds after a short scuffle.
Now, technical hitch there, but of course, we'll be bringing you that story later. We cross over to a different one where farmers flocked various national cereals and produce board stores in the country just a day after the rains started in various parts of it. And now Isaac Famba reports from Kitale on how farmers are still decrying the high cost of fertilizer.
As the planting progress this year seems to be on high notes, all eyes are now focused on the government to simplify distribution of cheap fertilizer to provide a good opportunity for farmers to continue the planting activities. Speaking at the launch of the seed distribution plan for farmers executed by the county government, some farmers have called the government to improve the plan as soon as the high price of fertilizer at some agrovet and private stores has become a major challenge for them to continue planting this year.
Tunaiomba tu national government isubsidy mambo ya mbolea. Tuliambiwa mbolea tutanunua gunia kwa 2500, but ukienda cereal bado mbolea bei iko juu. Mbolea ni above 5000. So mkulima taka tumepatiwa mbegu bila mbolea bado inakuwa ni ngumu.
Na angetusaidia tena upande ya mbolea, kirudi bei ya chini tunajua kwamba tutapanda kwa wakati na tutavuna vizuri. Tumelima lakini mbegu ndio ilikuwa shida, mbolea pia bado iko kwa bei ya juu. Tukichelewa kupanda huwa hatupati mavuno mazuri.
Trans Nzoia County Governor George Natembeya said the government should improve the fertilizer distribution plan to the fullest, considering that some small-scale farmers are having a great difficulties in obtaining fertilizer on time.
Wakati wananunua mahindi kutoka mataifa ya nje, wananunua ile nyingine inaitwa ngano kutoka mataifa ya nje na kwa bei ya juu. Yule mtu ambaye wanasaidia ni mkulima kutoka katika nje ya taifa la Kenya. Hiyo bei ya mahindi ambayo wana import na shilingi 6000 kwa mfano gunia moja, wakipatia wakulima wetu kwa matajiri sisi wote. Sisi tukiomba kwamba hata cereals peke yake wapatiwe pesa ya kununua mahindi yetu kwa shilingi 5000, wanasema hawana pesa. Lakini pesa inapatikana ya kuimport mahindi. Kweli ungwana hiyo kweli?
The government has also been urged to consider the purchase of maize from domestic farmers in addition to the purchase of maize from foreign countries, a situation which it says is oppressing farmers who are most expensive in maize farming in the country.
Ana zaidi mimi napeana mbegu, watu wanapanda mbegu bila mbolea kwa sababu hawana pesa. Niambia mtu hapa Zinyerere anunue mfuko moja ya DAP ama Yara kwa shilingi 6000, kwa sababu imepunguzwa kutoka 7500 kwa soko ni 6000. Wangapi watanunua? Wangapi watanunua? Pigeni makofi muombe Mwenyezi Mungu.
Isaac Famba, TV47, Trans Nzoia County.
Now, the State Department for Technical and Vocational Education and Training, TVET, has launched a nationwide initiative to build capacity of TVET trainers aimed at enhancing the implementation of the recognition of prior learning, that is RPL. The initiative is part of broader effort to standardize the program implementation and as well ensuring quality and trust in the qualifications awarded to learners who have acquired skills but lack formal certification. The Kabete National Polytechnic will also serve as a registration center for potential RPL candidates during this initiative. The Polytechnic is set to register individuals who have acquired skills but lack formal qualifications and are interested in undergoing RPL assessment process, which is scheduled to begin in May 2025.
One of the fears we have had is that people may not have trust in the qualifications we produce through the RPL system if issues of integrity are not addressed. And so, to ensure that what we produce meets the national standards, it is of the relevant quality as expected. One is a long value chain that starts with ensuring that the qualifications we assess is approved. First, occupational standards come from the labor market. Then the institutions that execute it have also the relevant law. They have the legal mandate to train, assess, and award qualifications. One of the issues we ensure. Then the assessment centers are also accredited to ensure that they have the relevant facilities to carry out the assessment.
We are presenting
close to around 50 practitioners for this training from our team of over 300 trainers. In RPL, this is whereby we did have to go out and identify those people with those special skills. So it means these trainers have to be given the way to do this.
The Kenya School of TVET will do the training of the trainers from the TVET institutions. This training is the second one. We will have the training going on across the country. We already have national polytechnics lined, and with this training will go as far as the month of April and May, so that we cover all the national polytechnics.
All right, now the Interior CS Kipchumba Murkomen has lauded the continued support from the humanitarian assistance partners amid the changing donor funding policies. He says their commitment remains vital in easing the burden that Kenya carries by hosting refugees who now number more than 800,000. He commended the U.S. government for the lifting of the ban on humanitarian funding. And as well, he spoke after a consultative meeting with ambassadors, high commissioners and heads of financial institutions on the refugee situation in Kenya held at Nairobi Hotel. The envoys and other partners on their part equally appreciated the government's transformative Shirika plan, which seeks to integrate refugees in the daily economic life of the country.
And our deliberations was around two issues. One is immediate support that the refugees need in the camps, in the work of strategic decisions made by different governments that have been supporting the refugees over the years, and the fear that perhaps there was going to be reduction of food rationing in the camps. And we have had very good deliberations. We appreciate the various governments here for their commitment and for various donors for their commitment and support. The second issue is in relation to the long-term plans. We, as a country, have come up with Shirika Plan. Shirika Plan is a Kenya government proposal which is on the table which is under public participation, stakeholder engagement, to see how best we can deal with the question of the refugees. As we all know that refugees were expected to be here for a short period of time, but now they have been in the country for 35 years. We cannot continue having this situation persisting forever, yet the global circumstances that relate to support of the refugees in the work of changing national dynamics in various countries in the world, we have to think also together to see how best can these refugees be integrated and what can be done to make sure that their contribution to the country is quantified and that they have their necessary certification.
All right, the Kenya Bureau of Standards, that is KEBS, and the Engineering Board of Kenya, EBK, is focusing on professional upskilling for practicing engineers to weed out the unqualified from accessing projects. EBK chairperson, that is Erastus Mungera, now says the board is looking to raise the number of professional engineers from the current 4,000 to 10,000, that is by 2027.
There have been over 100 building collapses in the last 30 years, with the frequency increasing from 2015. Over 20 buildings collapsed in that year alone. Residential developments are the most affected, accounting for 60% of the total cases.
You are regulators. Your daily job is regulation. Whatever you do, whether you are in the laboratory, whether you are in quality assurance center, whether you are in the field inspecting, you are regulating.
This, alongside other sectors run by engineers, have life-threatening mishaps, putting the professionalism of the sector players in question.
This session is very important for us here at KEBS, since we have so many graduate engineers that we want them to transition to professional engineers. Today we are having 134 graduate engineers being trained by EBK to transition from being graduate engineers to professional engineers.
The Engineers Board of Kenya are looking into a change of the training curriculum to encompass the changing times as technology changes disrupts the norm. But where does this leave practicing engineers? EBK Chair Erastus Mongera says upskilling is inevitable and a requirement for the fast changing industry.
And those of you who are professionals, I invite you also, when the registrar makes an announcement wanting to expand or to increase the number of panelists, please take interest if you qualify. It is not a preserve of a few.
The board is now looking to increase professional engineers from 4,000 to 10,000 in the next 2 years.
Kenya's regulation and policy frameworks are not ready for cryptocurrency trade due to cybersecurity gaps that present possible breaches that could cost billions of shillings. This is according to Joshua Jha, the global director for the world's second largest cryptocurrency trader, that is Bybit, who says the firm is looking to obtain licenses in Kenya, but policy shifts present a growing challenge.
The government's priority is to protect the citizens, so I make sure the bad exchanges don't come here, have scam, take away people's money, ordinary market woman, market man, like you don't take away their life saving. Well, so that's very reasonable, so we understand it. I think the government is usually, I'm sure in Kenya's case, is doing a good job understanding what crypto is. I think we just need more dialogue and more understanding.
We always try to be as compliant as possible in regions and markets where there are very clear regulatory guidelines. We try as much as we can to follow those guidelines. But we also understand that crypto is quite new globally, so not all countries of the world have clear regulations for crypto at the moment. So what we have also tried to do is that for countries where there are clear regulations, we try as much as we can to work with the regulators.
It has come to a time where the Daily Report is about to take a short breath, a polite reminder of what we discussed tonight, pretty much what is happening in the country politically, and of course pondering some more on the handshake between Right Honorable Raila Odinga and President William Ruto and what it is likely to bring to the people of Kenya, who feel that perhaps this is a political hoax, but others equally say that this is what is going to steer us to the road of unity. What do you make of that? Of course, the lines are open for you to speak to us at 22047, the SMS short code. I see Wakili Willis Otieno is in the building already. We'll also have Honorable Ole Sankok joining us virtually for the same conversation, and Arnold Maliba as well for that. So don't you go anywhere. We pay some bills and then we're back with that and more.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's mind. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth, as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50 going upwards, once a year, please go see a doctor. Yeah, it's just for normal routine maintenance.
Well, time for Power and Politics, and in studio with me is Wakili wa Pikipiki Point 8, Wakili Willis Otieno, who's equally the second boss of Safina Party. Thank you so much for creating time, Wakili. First time here, TV47 Studios.
First time to this new studio.
It's a great honor. Oh, the other ones you've been. Okay, that's good. Karibu sana. And Arnold Maliba, Party Leader Progress Plus Alliance. Nimeachwa nyuma sana.
No, you need to catch up.
I need to catch up. I need to play catch up without doubt. Since when?
Well, from around December, mid-December.
Mid-December.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You suppose that this is going to be a party that has been given a lifeline by this kind of handshake and shenanigans that we get to see in the country. And forgive me for terming them shenanigans. This is according to what a majority of Kenyans argue.
Literally, PPA, or the Progress Plus Alliance, is literally the party that you have to look forward to as we move forward, because you've seen all the other parties, you've seen what they can offer, you've seen their leadership and everything else.
Yes.
So if you are talking about the future, Progress Plus is where you need to be for a basic thing that, number one, the first liberation struggle was to get off the white man for independence. The second liberation was for good governance. It's embodied in the Constitution 2010. The third and final liberation, in my opinion, that is Article 43, socio-economic empowerment. There's too much talk and too much English. What we just need is to progress. We need to make progress. We've been around this mountain for so long.
Yes.
So we chose progress because we now have got a very foundational constitution. It defends itself.
Right.
Every time people try to actually assail it, it fights back. It has hard ways of fighting back. We are in a free country. We've got a good and robust governance framework. What is actually needed now is actually a progressive mindset, a progressive agenda, and progressivism is actually an ideology. That is what we are working on.
How progressive in this era where coalitions are the in thing, in this era where, you know, people will look at you and say, okay, it's just how much? And, you know, you find independent candidates who would probably opt not to join a new party and say, let them go it independent.
The political party idea is actually a tried and tested one, and it's the best way at political organization for purposes of capturing power and administering state. And I consider myself an ancient of political parties. Okay. I have worked in other political parties. I've been an official, I've been a staff member, and I think I know exactly what a political party should be, and I'm talking about a political party for the time. That Kenyans are tired. Kenyans are simply looking for three good things. They need, I know if you talk about good governance, automatically corruption should be under it, but they want somebody to fight corruption. They want service delivery, and they just want adherence to the law. If you adhere to the law, you do service delivery, and you deal with corruption. I don't like talking about government dealing with corruption or fighting corruption. Public corruption is committed by government. So government cannot be pretending like it's fighting corruption as if corruption is attacking from outside. Yet they are the ones who actually are committing corruption. So, so for corruption, for a government that is having like the one that is there today, they don't talk about fighting corruption. They should just stop corruption.
You have sat here defending the very same government that is sitting, you know, in power today, and the many other parties that you talk about. And Kenyans would be excited or perhaps curious to understand what new thing does Maliba and CORE, you know, bring on board, if at all they have believed in a government that we probably do not believe in, or in a government that is on board and we do not feel like it is presenting justice to us. Quickly.
One, I have had an opportunity to serve, for example, until last year, I worked for UDA, the party, and it's a very eye-opening experience that I had. That I can't take it. I'm not the type that will come here and trash talk where I have been. But I had an opportunity to learn how to run a political party, and I'm talking about a ruling party. I also had an opportunity to see the mistakes, for example, that they make. And I will tell you one thing, I do not regret having supported UDA for at least 2-3 years for two reasons. That number one, UDA and Kenya Kwanza generally did a very good diagnostics on Kenya's problem. That they got right. But now it's at the implementation stage that they are having a problem. But they did
why this problem? They
well.
strategically placed you there so that you can help them not to have challenges at the implementation.
I was actually for communication. I was supposed to communicate. I'm not an implementer. The people who are implementing are the people in the executive.
Communication is key. They say, and a majority of them are telling them that they are failing because their communication has failed.
So you communicate what is being done. You communicate what is happening. But I will tell you this, that the Kenya Kwanza administration, at their diagnosis level, they got right what needs to be done. But at implementation, they are simply behaving like those who came before them.
Safina Party, what about it? What's going on? Maliba says that his party is the way to go and overlooks perhaps the presence of these many other parties that have been here long enough. What's happening now that we are very clear that you would like to go it for presidency sometime in 2027, of course, under the lead of Jimmy Wanjigi? What's going on so far?
Safina Party will say, safi sana na Wanjigi.
Na ni safi sana?
Safi sana na Wanjigi.
Okay.
That's how to say, how we put it. Safi sana na Wanjigi. But let me say this. We need to understand what the problem is in this country.
Okay.
And the legacy politicians, the ones Maliba used to work for, they don't just get it. Because they believe that the problem of Kenya is that we have this cake, and Uru's problem was how to distribute it.
Okay.
So William Ruto comes in, he thinks to solve the problem is let me distribute it in this manner. That is what we call demand-side economics. The Kenyan people today are crying for lack of money in their pockets. It's about the economy. As James Carville used to say in the US, it's the economy, stupid. It's the economy. So what options are political parties offering to the people of Kenya that will change our economic trajectory?
Yeah.
And as Safina Party, we say, we are supply-side economists. We believe in supply-side economics.
Okay.
And supply-side economics has 3 key pillars. Number 1, reduce taxes. And Maliba will ask me, how will you reduce taxes that William Ruto keeps increasing? And I promise you, he's going to increase taxes. Even in the next 2 months, you'll see a new finance bill with more taxes, charges, and levies. As we say, you reduce taxes. And you reduce taxes, you are going to boost production, and you'll collect more in the end. I'll give you an example of VAT on fuel. Why are we charging 16% VAT on fuel? If you reduce, the moment you reduce VAT on fuel, now is the planting season. Many farmers can't afford.
Right.
So they end up using oxen. Some who don't are forced to take their kids out of school or to delay going to school to plow the farms. Why? Because the cost of production of plowing is high.
I have heard your party leader speak about the economy and perhaps just telling us how we are in the wards and how tough the situation is. How practical would it be to imagine? I'm
coming to that. That's how I want to understand the 3 pillars of supply-side economics, the difference between us and legacy politicians. So you reduce taxation on fuel, what will happen is that if you are consuming, for example, 1,000 tons in a village per week, now with reduced fuel costs, probably now there'll be more use of that of fuel in that locality. More people will use the tractors to plow. More people will ride on boda. They'll consume more, and you end up collecting more. So instead of 1,000, maybe that village will now consume 3,000 liters.
Right.
You see an increase. Now let's come to the second pillar. The second pillar is remove government bureaucracy. Reduce government. It's less government.
Okay.
So you identify government where it exists, and you reduce the presence of government. And that ties to the 3rd pillar, which is about...
What do you mean when you say reduce government? Reduce the number?
I want to tie it to the 3rd pillar.
Okay.
Because they are correlated.
All right.
The 3rd pillar is about the private sector as the driver of economic growth.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example. Today, many Kenyans have ideas, innovative ideas. But the greatest challenge they face is access to capital. Why? You go to the bank is charging an interest rate of 20%.
Yeah.
Why are they charging an interest of 20%? Because their number 1 customer is government, which is borrowing at 17%. So, Alela, you go to the bank, the bank will tell you, based on an assessment of you, 20-25% interest rate. You have your great idea. You will not be able to access that capital. So your idea dies with you. But if you remove government borrowing from the domestic market,
which they say is a low risk, according to the bank.
The bank prefers to lend to government because a low risk is a sovereign guarantee.
Right.
They'll always be paid. So stop borrowing from the domestic market. Stop borrowing from the banks. What that achieves is automatically the banks are will be left with cash in their hands. Their depositors, their shareholders need dividends, need interest. So the bank will be coming hawking loans, begging you to take a loan.
Pretty much what happened during the Kibaki time.
During the Kibaki time.
But then again, if government is going to be denied a chance to borrow home, then and we still are struggling with debt, so should they go back to...
It takes me to even the question of debt when I say reduce government. I'll ask myself, as a political party, Safina, we're very clear. And we've done an audit. We've done a forensic, not just an audit, a forensic audit of our public debt register in the last 10 years, from there 2013 to 2023. And we've reported that out of our debt stock, around 4.4 trillion shillings is odious debt. In fact, if you go further, you look at how much we've repaid. The lenders, both domestic and international, owe the Kenyan people 1.6 trillion. We've overpaid. And I say this based on what does our laws provide in terms of borrowing. Our laws provide that you borrow for development, number one.
Right.
And number two, you only borrow with parliamentary approval. So take all the debts that we have, take the debt stock,
Yeah.
then compare it against where did Parliament approve this loan to be taken?
Yeah.
What project did it fund? So that if somebody tells you that today, I saw the CS Treasury saying that we owe 11 trillion. Ask any Kenyan to show you that project which is worth 11 trillion in the country today.
Yeah.
I'll use a physical example for you to understand what 11 trillion is.
Means, yeah.
Thika Road was constructed on a loan of 30 billion. It is here. We can all see it. The impact of that 30 billion project is felt today, is what has even led to emerging new towns along that corridor. Miremas, the Ruiru,
Right.
Ruaka. All, you can't even now tell the difference between Nairobi and Thika, purely because of that road project. Now tell me, which are these projects that allegedly 11 trillion that was borrowed was applied to? As Safina Party, we are saying they don't exist. So it means if somebody took loans in the names of the people of Kenya, we shall not pay, won't pay, and let the banks bear responsibility. You'll ask me where it has been done before.
And of course, I'll ask you how.
I will tell you what happened. In Mozambique, they took what is called tuna bond, $2 billion US.
Yes.
At the time when they took the tuna bond, we also took Eurobond,
Right.
$2 billion US. We can trace $1 billion US coming into Kenya, part of it being used to retire an old loan that had been taken by Kibaki. $1 billion US cannot be traced. In fact, if you follow it, the paper trail ends somewhere in Qatar, in a private account.
Okay.
Why should the people of Kenya be overtaxed to pay for that $1 billion US? The people of Mozambique, in a similar circumstance, went to their courts and they told their courts, this tuna bond, $2 billion US, was taken without following our laws. It's an odious debt. It's an illegal debt to us.
We continue to struggle with the
And
question
they
of
did not
debt.
pay.
Why haven't we gone to court?
We are in court.
We're in court, but why is it that we are not,
Because the legacy politicians
Will
are
not-
the ones who've taken these debts. They are the ones who are benefiting from this haste.
All right,
In
hold
fact,
it.
Jimmy Wanjigi calls it, this is the haste of the century.
Well, interesting. Honorable Ole Sankok is here. I will not purport to speak for government, but him being, don't want to call a beneficiary, but a member of parliament of Alela, courtesy of the current government, I think is ably going to address or articulate to these matters. You asked me, Wakili, wapi mtu wa government. Honorable Ole Sankok, we expected to have you here this evening, but then we thank God for technology that we still can have your word. Have you heard what the two gentlemen are saying?
Yes, I've heard, and I sympathize really with the Safina party leader, I think party leader or whatever he calls himself. He's a lawyer, but I sympathize with him because he has fallen to the trap of socio-economic neocolonialism. The trap of socio-economic neocolonialism is to channel our investments in Africa towards what we call capital-intensive investment. That is why you talk of borrowing loans, you talk of investing in certain huge projects. Yet our strength as African currently don't lie in financial capital. Ours lies on labor capital or human capital. So the trap of the political socio-economic neocolonizers is to channel our thinking towards capital-intensive investment, where then we end up borrowing for us to be able to invest. In that process, we still become slave under colonization because we borrow from China, we borrow from the West, we borrow from Europe, the same people who colonize us. But when our strength as Africans are actually in labor-intensive investment, because we know we may not be good producers of cars, phones, laptops, or whatever, But in Africa, we are very good producers of children. In terms of human capital, we have youth who are totally unemployed, energetic one, and also very intelligent because we have a good education system. Therefore, investing in labor-intensive investment is the way to go in Africa, where we have industries like leather industry that require very little financial capital, but very huge reliance on labor capital. The moment we invest on that, so why I sympathize with my brother there is that I think that they have the solution, but no, actually their solution is political socio-economic neocolonialism to us. We will, as Kenya Kwanza, and that is why we came up with what we call bottom-up economic model, which is
how practical is the bottom-up economic model today? Yes.
Very practical, because what we said is that instead of investing in large corporates with an aim of those corporate giving us employment and paying taxes, why don't we broaden the tax base, whereby we invest in small and medium enterprises, which require a lot of human capital rather than financial capital. I can give you an example of what even Kibaki did. Kibaki actually introduced some laws that enable us to acquire boda-bodas. And by acquiring boda-boda, it is a cheaper form of transport, and there are so many people now using boda-boda. If today you go to our petrol station, the boda-boda riders are actually consuming more petrol than our commercial vehicles. So by that, we have broadened the base of the taxpayers. The taxes that we used to receive from... Yes?
Mheshimiwa, we have seen the handshake, which you were present during it happening. And today we have the president traversing the different parts of Nairobi, coming up with projects, and they say that they're going to extend this even further. And many would term that this is coming after that deal between him and Right Honorable Raila Odinga. If you look at the 10 aspects of the agreement that is there, or that is supposed to be implemented courtesy of this handshake, apart from the NADCO report, which largely speaks about the concerns of Kenyans, the rest also are just basically about development. Don't you think that it would be absurd to argue that, the bottom-up economy is working, that things are working for Kenyans courtesy of the Kenya Kwanza government, yet they have had to loop in the Right Honorable Raila Odinga so that he would come in to assist in making sure that all these projects are implemented?
Maybe, Linda, you are not aware why we brought Raila Odinga.
You tell us then.
We brought in Raila Odinga, who is actually the Prince of Peace. And
Honorable Sankok. Is this the same you? Okay, proceed.
The Prince of Peace. And the king without a crown. And we want to crown him. And that is why even we campaign hard for him, so that we can crown him. Why we say that he's the Prince of Peace is that Raila Odinga was jailed by Moi for 9 years, but still made peace with President Moi.
Did you witness what happened in Kisii yesterday?
You remember the issue of him and the late President Kibaki. Mm-hmm. They actually abused each other, but still Raila, being a Prince of Peace, was able to make peace with him, while Kibaki was abusing him, Kumpafu Mafia Kuku. Mm-hmm. You remember what also happened with Uhuru Kenyatta. Uhuru was abusing him, Muganga and whatever, but still made peace with him. Mm-hmm. And again, lastly, William Ruto was abusing him, Mzee wa Kitandawili, but still was able to make peace with him. So we brought him as a Prince of Peace, because we can only achieve development when we have peace. And aware of where we came from, during the Gen Z protests, and Teremusha Unga Kufa Sufuria kwa kichwa protest, we had first of all to seek peace. So we brought Raila.
Hold it at that.
The Prince of
Yes, and we all understand that peace is important if at all we have to achieve any form of development. Hold your peace, Wakili. Hold your...
Just one line only.
Okay.
On the 11th of January 2022,
okay,
Honorable Sankok stood up and accused Raila of committing treason twice.
Yes.
And he publicly said that Raila should not even qualify, should not even be allowed, cleared to contest for the presidency in 2022.
Yes.
You know, these legacy politicians, they say what is convenient today, they don't mean it. That is why we're in this mess we are in as a country. I'll end at that point on that.
All right. Of course, let us shift gears a bit and look at what is in the world of sports, and then we come back with that conversation. Just how much a Prince of Peace is right, Honorable Raila Odinga, is what the gentleman will be reacting to as we proceed with the conversation. Of course, immense feedback from you, and we'll also be sampling that as we continue with the broadcast. To sports.
Sports news brought to you by Maybets.
Join Maybets leo upate free bet papo hapo. Fanya hivi, chagua home team to win, yani number 1 au draw X au away team 2 kwa game ya siku ya free bet. Weka namba yako ya simu, weka password ya account yako. Chagua submit free bet. Utapata free bet kwa account yako ya Maybets. Usisahau kuverify account yako. Kama hutakuwa verified, utapoteza free bet yako after 2 days. Betting is strictly for 18 years and over. Play responsibly. Terms and conditions apply. BCLB number 000578.
Maybet na minia na najishindia. Pesa inavutia,
At Sporty, President Ruto on Monday morning embarked on a week-long tour of Nairobi County, launching and commissioning development projects across its 17 constituencies. The president kick-started his tour with an inspection of the Desert Beach grounds in Kamkunji that is currently undergoing renovations. This was a show of Ruto's commitment to investing in sports in different parts of the country as they aim to nurture and grow talents all the way from the grassroots level.
Wameniambia wanajenga kiwanja kama hii 10 Nairobi na zingine 4 kubwa Nairobi kwa minajili ya kushughulikia vijana wa Nairobi County. Mimi nataka nikwambie bwana gavana, serikali ya kitaifa pia itakusaidia. Tunataka mtuambie tunaweza kuwasaidia mahali gani. Nitaamurisha wale watu wa stadium na sports fund washikilie mitaa ya Nairobi ndio vijana waweze kupata vifaa ambazo watatumia kwa michezo ili kuhakikisha kwamba talent na vijana wa Nairobi inapatikana kama vile na vijana wengine wa Kenya inapatikana.
We shift gears where the defending champion Equity Hawks registered our 82-37 victory in the Kenya Basketball Federation Premier League fixture played at the Nyayo Stadium. Hawks took charge from the first to the final whistle as they continued with their impressive form. Meanwhile, Strathmore Sword Stanbic Aces, that is 55-43. Moja defeated UN Terra, that is 75-64, while New Sasa toppled Shoot for Life 54-43.
It was a tough game, a competitive one. They were very competitive. Mostly the runs, they beat us on runs, but we have a lot to improve on, which we are going to do. And coming the next second leg, when we meet them, we will be much better. In the next match, we need to be more aggressive. We have a lot of a few mistakes we need to work on. And yes, coming the next, we're looking to be among the top 3 coming this season, and we are going to be more aggressive and more competitive, yes.
Now, the host Aga Academy from Mombasa and Umoja Junior School from Changamwe were crowned the new champions of the M-Pesa Junior NBA Coast Regional Finals held at the Aga Academy in Mombasa County. The Aga Academy boys, led by coach Eugene Auka, showcased their prowess in the boys' final, securing a hard-fought 25-19 victory. And of course, here are the highlights of that.
It was good because we've never played like a team that we've played before today. Because we've shared our balls. Many of us have tried to shoot, and that's good.
Of the tournament ilikuwa sawa. We appreciate the M-Pesa and Junior NBA for the experience. It's not only the kids that got to have fun, also we as coaches, we got to expand our experience and broaden our horizons.
It is a big experience for the kids, as it's the first time we're experiencing competition for this age category. We are urging Junior NBA to keep this competition live yearly.
Just to nurture young talents, develop and see how well we can build the capacity for them to use in future. When the talents are well identified and nurtured at a young age, it gives them the momentum to grow into solid athletes later in the years that they can now use to be another source of livelihood.
Last but not least, after an enthralling 7 months of golf action at the Kenya Air Force Golf Club, Captain Dawn Tururei is the overall winner of this year's Kenya Air Force Golf Club Championship. Dawn was in imperious form to win significant honors ahead of Ruth Kamau and Major Lucia Mwaniki and Marge Di Owino, who marked a positive start in the club championship, as Martin Kiambi was crowned as the guest champion winner. Captain Joy Jagi and Lieutenant Colonel Dr. Midega were crowned as the lady and man winners, respectively, and while Harold Wanyama bagged the cross winner and longest drive men's prizes.
Today we are having our Kenya Air Force Golf Club Championships that is sponsored by Vivo Energy Kenya Limited. So far we have had about 230 players. The tournament itself started way back in September, and today is the culmination of this event.
Vivo Energy has been a partner and a supplier to the entire military for more than 50 years. And we take so much pride and joy to be part of, not just a partner of us in terms of supply, but also to be part of the journey of sport within the military.
I'm happy to say for the past 1 year, the lady membership has been fantastic. We've actually been more than 100% done this, doubled the numbers. And it's fantastic because with that, we have more ladies playing on
Sports News brought to you by Maybets.
Join Maybets leo upate free bet papo hapo. Fanya hivi, chagua home team to win, yani number 1 au draw X au away team 2 kwa game ya siku ya free bet. Weka namba yako ya simu, weka password ya account yako, chagua submit free bet. Utapata free bet kwa account yako ya Maybets. Usisahau kuverify account yako. Kama hutakuwa verified, utapoteza free bet yako after 2 days. Betting is strictly for 18 years and over. Play responsibly. Terms and conditions apply. BCLB number 0000578.
Maybet na minia na najishindia. Pesa inavutia, pesa inavutia.
is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's mind. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
And the highlight of this evening is on the Prince of Peace and the legacy politicians. The conversation is back. I see some of you trying to call us on WhatsApp. I mean, the numbers to call are running down your screen. You can use that, 22047 being the SMS short code. I'll be looking at your comments as we continue with the broadcast. In studio, Wakili Willis Sotieno is here. And of course, we also have Arnold Maliba. Joining us virtually is Honorable Sankok. Honorable Sankok, quickly, you want to say something to Honorable Sankok in terms of what he has said so that we can go back to him?
I just needed to say this, that Honorable Sankok, of course, for purposes of political correctness, he aligns quickly, and that quote-unquote is good characteristics of a good politician. But then from where we sit as a nation, I think we need some radical political surgery so that then we are able to move forward. You see, we cannot deny Raila Odinga for the role he has played, at least in the second liberation.
Yes.
That is a role we cannot take away. But we should also not shy away from pointing out that Raila has done more damage to our democracy than we will actually be able to quantify. It's going to take so long because it's now become a culture that elections count for nothing.
Okay.
And we go to elections, and you know the controversy that was happening over the weekend is that just before Saturday, there was a handshake between Raila Odinga and William Ruto. And then on Saturday, we were burying Chebukati, a man who literally was being lynched at Bomas for quote-unquote not getting it right, and also getting it right for one side.
Okay.
So when we go to elections, elections should mean something.
Right.
But then Raila has perfected the art. He knows that there are some political pressure points for this country. He studied them very well, and he actually manipulates them. In the process, it hurts our democracy. It's now become a culture. Tomorrow, when Willis becomes president, and I am from PPA and I do not feel like I like it, what stops me from actually implementing the same? Because now it's almost a culture. We take it as normal.
Okay.
Because in 2008, and Linda, allow me to actually point this out. In 2008, in 1998, he will join President Moi. And as they agreed, if you look at that document, they're speaking about national unity and peace. And then, of course, there is the 208.
Yes.
He joins Mwai Kibaki. Again, they are talking about national unity and peace. We show up in 2018, March, on the steps of Arambe House again. The Raila again is uniting the country, and for the sake of peace, he comes on board. Last weekend, he was again shaking the hand of William Ruto, again for unity and peace. As in, is it only that peace only occurs when he is the constant factor on the other side?
Okay.
If he has been uniting Kenya since 1998.
You could still do it from this other side.
2008.
Yes.
2018. And now 2025. He is still uniting Kenya. So Kenya only gets in this unity if he is outside. So we are now united according to what they said at KICC. When they fall out, Kenya will actually be divided. You cannot reduce a sovereign state to something like child support.
Well, why then would Kenyans feel betrayed that the Right Honorable Raila Odinga exists? I'm coming back to you.
It's not about Kenyans feeling betrayed.
Yes.
This, and allow me to borrow Willis' words, this is actually a game perfected by the legacy politicians. Because do Kenyans feel betrayed? Kenyans feel betrayed by the politicians passing, because once you are elected and you go to parliament, whether you are in opposition or not, you are part and parcel of government. For example, parliament is a budget-making body. It's not a late endorser to the budget-making process like it used to be in the days of old.
Okay.
So anyone in government, or rather anyone in parliament, is part and parcel of governance.
Okay.
Because there are instruments like the PAC, those committees and the others, they are part and parcel of our governance. So you can't say that we are in opposition, but you are in parliament. So Kenyans feel disappointed in all what Willis is actually calling the legacy politicians. But the point is, I just wanted to speak to Honorable Sankok's word that now Kenya is united just because Raila is in. When he joined Moi, I thought Kenya was united from 1998 and we did not need any more unity. Then he shows up, probably he came to repair in 2008. It had been torn. So he comes in to repair. And then he shows up in 2018. Where will he be? Yeye peke yake ndio fundi wa unity.
Okay, hold it. And we seem to be having a problem with these ones that you call legacy politicians. We come to you shortly to find out how best we can end them out. But of course, we loop in Honorable Sankok on the other side. Maliba raises a very important point that perhaps political correctness is what puts you in the situation where you are, perhaps in the space that you're in today. Honorable Sankok, would you say that political correctness has costed us the parliament today, the 13th parliament to be precise?
Linda, let me start by, first of all, asking Willis, how does he keep my records of when I spoke and what I said? I don't know where he have those records. Anyway, but coming to Maliba, please, first of all, allow the family of Chebukati to mourn in peace. It is very painful to lose somebody. So don't bring him up in such a conversation. I plead with you. Secondly, when you talk about Raila as a Prince of Peace, and you mention the dates that he had actually brought Kenya together on a negative notion, because you are blinded by political, socio-economic new colonizers to see only something dark in our continent. You know, Linda, nowadays I'm in the geopolitics. And I understand very well that when we were admitting Democratic Republic of Congo, we were told by the former colonizers of how civil war is in Congo. When we were admitting Somali into EAC, they were an East African community. They told us about the dark things about Somalia. But for me, I chose to see the positive thing. Somali bring on board a longest coastline that will enable us to do business. Still here, on the issue of Raila, I decide to see the positive side. I will not be like my friend there who sees the dark side. Yes, you agree with us that in 1998, Kenya was torn apart. It is only because of Raila Odinga being a gentleman enough that he brought Kenya together. In 2007, 2008, the post-election violence that took us to ICC, there was a political genocide mantra in Kenya going round, 41 against 1. It was because of Raila.
And we're privy to that history, Honorable Sankok.
Is Raila who brought that peace. So please, see the positive side of what Raila brought on board. It was not Raila that was blocking roads. It was not Raila that was killing Kenyans. It was Kenyans killing each other in post-election violence. It was Kenyans burning Kenyans' houses. But because Raila is a gentleman enough, he decided, okay, even if my voters think that I've won the election, I have decided that let Kibaki take the presidency. And then he was offered the prime minister. So,
what makes you think, Honorable Sankok, quickly, or
Yes.
better yet, we're going to come back to you, because then we want to understand what exactly do you refer to as peace? Because we saw the Gen Zs out, of course, protesting against, the reign of Kenya Kwanza. Then the question would be, do you suppose it's going to be different now that Raila is, having an agreement, the broad-based agreement? And before we get a hold of Honorable Sakok, gentlemen, we come back to you. We talk about peace, 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 peace. Do you think this is going to quell any form of, uprising, if you'd want to call it, that will be Gen Z oriented? Should we say that what happened last year is what happened and is not likely to play out again?
One thing the legacy politicians have refused to understand, the Kenyan people are very united and they're speaking with one voice. The only people who are not in that unity are the legacy politicians. The Kenyan people are united in their clarion call that Ruto must go.
Okay.
That unites the whole country, irrespective of where you come from. But the legacy politicians will want to make you think, and you're going to see them very soon. I know how they think. They'll start saying, oh, we're uniting Kenyans based on what? Based on tribe. But Kenyans are already united on the clarion call of Ruto must go, because he has caused economic pain to all Kenyans, irrespective of their tribe, irrespective of their age. That is what unites us. But legacy politicians are not seeing it. Sankok can sit comfortably in Narok, enjoying the comfort of his mansion, when there's right now in Narok County Hospital, there's a young lady who has given birth that is detained in that hospital because she can't pay 10,000 Kenya shillings. Linda Mama is not working. Right now in Narok, we have a kid who was supposed to be in university, who was supposed to report to university this year, has not reported. Right now in Narok, we have schools that are not able to feed their kids because school capitation has not been delivered. Right now in Narok, we have somebody who is forced to take a boda and become a boda rider, and yet is a graduate teacher, because there are no jobs available for him. So to them, everything is fine. But to the Kenyan people, the economy is in shambles, and they are feeling this economic pain.
And
the healthcare system is not working.
Are they act to a point where then they'd be able to abe off or abe out these legacy politicians? Because if you're going to name them and look at their political history, these are people who've been in the game long enough.
The beauty of it is this, led by the Gen Z, because for the first time, and I have faith in our young people, because for the first time in the history of the earth, not just of Kenya, for the first time in the history of the earth, we had the largest demonstrations ever seen in the capital and across the counties. Over 37 counties participated. Organic and with no leader apart from the young people themselves leading us, and not championing on tribal agenda, but on a common national agenda.
And do you think it yielded any form of fruit?
Of course, even what you're witnessing, the coming together of the legacy politicians, is more of a reaction to the threat that is coming from the June 25th movement. So everything, even the impeachment of Gachagua, is just as a consequence of that. This kind of broad-based handshakes that you're witnessing is more of a reaction. So the young people are shaping the political discourse in this country. So the ones who are under attack are trying to come together to deal with that challenge that is posed. But I assure you, just like they lost on the 25th of June last year, they will also lose on this particular occasion. And I say this, I'm informed by this.
Yes.
Just before the finance bill was tabled, William Ruto stood up and told Kenyans, pitisha haraka.
Yes.
Nitakuwa na ngoja asubuhi kuweka sahihi. The next thing, when the first demonstration took place, he called them criminals. The next day, the same man was telling them sons and daughters and saying, I've decided to dissolve my cabinet. I even decided to reject the finance bill. He was responding to the pressure from the people. That pressure is still there. And I have faith that pressure will sweep away all these legacy.
With all fairness, as we come to you also, that pressure has given us the broad-based government, if you'd want to call it, and Kenyans are asking, is it necessary? That very pressure has accorded us this signing of the MOU that we witnessed between the two gentlemen. And then we want to ask, does it first of all show that the Right Honorable Raila Odinga has come on board to make sure that he isn't the burden, the increasingly difficult run of the country of President William Ruto? And does it then paint the legitimacy of President William Ruto?
Even if I was to give Raila Odinga the benefit of doubt, that maybe means well. But I'm sure William Ruto does not mean well to the people of Kenya. And I say this with tremendous respect. Look at agenda number 10 on their 10-point agenda. Agenda number 10 was to respect the sovereignty of the people and the rule of the constitution, the rule of law.
Yeah.
That's agenda number 10. 2 days, barely 2 days from the date that that agreement was signed, young people issued a more than 1 week notice that we are going to demonstrate at a local church somewhere in Roysambu.
Which they did anyway.
Which is their right under Article 37 of the Constitution. Barely 2 days after that public commitment to respect the Constitution and the sovereignty of the people, we saw policemen being deployed in Roysambu to tear gas, to arrest, and to beat up those young men for merely exercising their rights to demonstrate over a particular issue. A demonstration is a right in our Constitution.
Yeah.
You may not agree with the message of the demonstrator, but you cannot take away his right to express his displeasure in that demonstration. Yeah. If already, barely 2 days, even before the ink dried on the signatures, William Ruto was deploying policemen to beat our young people, to tear gas them, and to barricade a church. What do you think he's going to do after 1 week? Nothing in that 10-point agenda is going to be honored. Raila may be genuine, he may be, I don't know. But at least William Ruto have studied him. Nothing he has said has come to pass. He lies like Ananias.
And Safira.
He lies like Ananias. Safina is Safi Sana na Wanjigi.
Safira, Ananias is Safira.
Yes, he lies like Safira.
All right.
I just need to say this, that I'm surprised that Willis has got so much faith, and he actually has taken time to look at the 10 points agenda from a point of where probably it means anything good.
Yeah.
I'll be coming to that, but let's look at BBG for what it is. First of all, the broad-based government is actually a late reinforcement for purposes of legitimacy, because after June 25th, the administration was literally groping in darkness. And they say a drowning man would actually even cling even on a straw. So that's why you actually have seen very funny things happening. For example, if you look at William Ruto's government, it has got a problem. That number one, the executive is so weak. You can't see the PSS. They have submarined, you can't see them. CSS are non-existent. Even those who were brought in lately, and we thought that probably they would inject some new lease of life, like Mutai Kagwe, you don't see them. They've become so ordinary. Kabogo, you don't get anything. They literally, they didn't move even a needle. So what has been putting William Ruto's government at least working has been the National Assembly. That has been the center post.
Assembly,
That has been the center point of William Ruto's administration, because the executive is weak. There's a revolving door syndrome where you bring in cabinet secretaries, and 4 months later on, after you have defended why they should be in the cabinet, 4 months later on, you show them the door.
Right.
So the revolving door syndrome speaks to that. When you see PSS that do not exist, when you see CSS that literally are like Form 1s, they are there to be seen and not to be heard, it means the executive is totally collapsed. So what holds this administration, because the judiciary is a little bit belligerent, it's actually, and you know, the judiciary has no option, but it has to defend the constitution.
Right.
So the judiciary looks like it's belligerent, assailing the regime. The executive cannot stand on its own. Only the National Assembly actually has had a level, and that is why, by the way, even Gen Z attacked that, attacked Parliament, because by the way, that is the only thing. Now, the second center post that has come in now is Raila Odinga.
Yes.
And it has nothing to do with the delivery to Kenyans. It's about regime survival. Let's get that very clearly. And just looking at the 10 points, let me call it the 10 points agenda. Number one, they're talking about the implementation of the NADCO report. NADCO report was BBI in new clothes. BBI was largely about creating positions for the political class. So even point number one has nothing to do with Kenyans. It's
Is it
BBI.
unconstitutional in your view?
Well, constitutionalism is how people get around it, whether they do it through the popular initiative or the people. But I'm just telling you that even agenda number one is not about the people, because it's BBI, but BBI in new clothes. Number two, they talk about inclusive in public life. They're only going to defenestrate Rigigi's people and creating positions for ODM's people. Nothing else. As in, when they talk, you are not going to see a Gen Z included in agenda number two. It has nothing to do about the people of Kenya. Number three, protecting and strengthening devolution. I can tell you 100% what this is going to be about. It will be about slowing and going slow on thieving governors from friendly constituencies or other counties. When they talk about strength, they will not be talking about adding money, but you will see governors who are stealing being protected. That is what agenda number 3 is about. Agenda number 4, they talk about protecting and promoting the livelihoods of young people. I can tell you what they'll do. I have worked for young people most of my adult life. And I'll tell you this, they're just going to create a few youth forums, and in my language, they're going to create new bouncing castles to keep young people busy.
Yeah.
There will be nothing fundamental about young people. Agenda number 5, they talk about leadership and integrity. They know this is the Panadol that soothes the public to actually relax. So they want to sing that language, that lullaby very loudly to ensure that the public relaxes. And number 6, they are talking about the right to peaceful assembly and protest. Why would they be giving us what the Constitution has already given us? As in, you cannot give us what is actually our right. So this is also another way of actually making us feel like we are supposed to relax. They talk about agenda number 7, national debt. This government is going to be bigger. I know they are going to bring back CASS. That one you can take it for sure. They are going to bring back CASS so that they are bringing more people. They are simply going to take more debt to finance a bigger government. Again, nothing about the people. Number 8, they talk about fighting corruption. That's agenda number 8. There is no fighting corruption they're going to fight. Government, public corruption happens in government. It is done by government. So government cannot say that it is fighting corruption as if corruption is coming from outside. Government should simply stop corruption. This is just a talking point that has to be on that thing. Number 9, they say stopping wastage of public resources and to promote government efficiency. They're going to talk about equality. So they will be taking some quote-unquote resources from other areas that are seen as hostile, and taking them to others, quote-unquote, in the name of equality. And in that, polarizing the country. Number 10, they speak about protecting sovereignty. I don't think they are serious about this.
All right.
Because they've not spoken about Besigye being, let's talk about sovereignty proper here.
Yes.
Besigye is abducted in Nairobi, the capital of Kenya. The Republic of Kenya, the CS for Foreign Affairs has not even summoned the ambassador, or rather the High Commissioner, Uganda's High Commissioner in Nairobi. We saw our neighbor in the south trying to also abduct an activist here in Kilimani, and Kenyans actually had to come out. So there is nothing around here. So the summary of this thing is that this is not the MOU. This was for public consumption. There is an MOU that is behind this. Okay. This is a popular version to actually keep us, that is actually written in a way that actually makes us feel happy, but there is a real MOU that is actually sharing positions properly, complete to numbers and who gets what and who takes what. Okay. But this is a popular version and it has nothing to do with us.
And I'd love to know, Mr. Director, whether we have Honorable Sankok, but before then, quickly, before we take a quick break, Wakili, what are the legal options that Kenyans would have to challenge such arrangements, if any?
You know, it's the right of legacy politicians to focus as they want.
Okay.
And it's equally the right of Kenyans to reject them. And the Kenyan people have rejected these legacy politicians.
Right.
Because Article 1 vests sovereignty on the people. And where we are as a country today, the people are exercising their sovereignty directly. We just have an obstacle in the name of Kenya Kwanza administration that is undermining the exercise of that direct sovereignty. But their date with destiny is coming, and the Kenyan people will have their final say.
Are you talking about 2027?
I don't know. It may even come earlier. Who said it must wait? Who knows? It may come. Just like it almost came before the legacy politicians regrouped. Last year was a defining moment.
Okay.
That energy, I've never seen it. I
And
don't know where it
they
came
must
from.
not sit pretty.
They cannot sit pretty because these are a battle between the Kenyan people and the legacy politicians.
Okay.
And
come back.
the time will come when the wheat will meet the chaff. Yes.
All right, at least the constitutional timeline that we are clear about is the 2027 elections, and therefore allow us to take a quick short break, and then we come back and pack some more on the formation of the IEBC, the 2027 elections, and whether Kenyans can cling on to Parliament, as Arnold Maliba would say, to be the savior of the day. After this break.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age.
Welcome back to Power and Politics with me, Linda Alela. We still have Wakili Willis, Arnold Maliba is here, and Honorable Sankok joining us virtually. One gentleman is sending a message to ask or to say, this is Udis Daktar, who says, tell Honorable Sankok that Kenya is united and that we cannot afford to be blackmailed by this political so-called MOUs by the legacy politicians. The greatest wave of unity is yet to come in 2027 by the neglected J25. And of course, somebody else says we cannot afford Honorable Sankok to run away with this kind of conversation, and therefore, Honorable Sankok, you have to answer to the Kenyans. But there's also a gentleman by the name Ezekiel from Kisumu who's asking, can you ask Wakili Willis Otieno how he could have reacted to the church concern if he were to be in power? Did you want the Gen Zs to go ahead and cause havoc and damage every activity at the level of the church? I mean, what law do we need to practice if at all we're not going to make sure that we tone them down? We'll be coming to you to respond, Wakili, but let's loop in Honorable Ole Sankok. I still want to ask this very question, and perhaps make it in form of a comment, that political correctness has costed us the parliament. Would you argue so? Do you suppose that the parliament, and you have sat in there, you sit at, the East African Legislative Assembly, do you suppose that we still have parliamentarians that are worth their salt to oversight, legislate, and basically address the concerns of the people of Kenya, looking at just how they have ganged up minority and majority, or perhaps they are working together now to make sure that they proceed or they pass the agendas of the sitting government?
Okay, there was that question from the Gen Z, and I would like to, first of all, tell him thank you so much. I'm a father of Gen Zs, and we really do respect them. I will advise him to take a vote to make sure that he or she is registered as a voter, so that the next parliament is full of Gen Zs. So I encourage most of them to contest, to compete, and to be in parliament, so that whatever that this parliament have not achieved, they can now come and achieve. To your question, Linda, members of parliament don't elect themselves. They are elected by Kenyans. So it's a total representation of Kenyans. Right. So if parliament have failed, then don't blame parliament, blame the voters. Because then, if they decide that they will not vote for a professor, they'll vote for a fake engineer, or they will vote for a class 3 dropout, who then have maybe corrupted his way into getting some papers from whichever angle they have gotten a fake degree, then it is Kenyans who have decided to cast their votes on the ballot. This time around, they decided that it is William Ruto, not Raila Odinga, and it is William Ruto with a PhD, yes, a doctor of philosophy, well-known, a student of Nairobi University, a leader in that University of Nairobi. So then William Ruto is a reflection of Kenyans. They decided this is what it is. So for me, Parliament, up to now I can say, they are trying. And they are trying because that's what they are elected to do. They are actually doing oversight. I've seen all the committees are very active. I've seen them summoning cabinet secretaries, and irrespective of their political affiliations, they have been questioning those cabinet secretaries according to the law and the standing orders of Parliament. Okay. So to me, I can say Parliament is trying.
All right, beautiful. Honorable Willis, we come back to you on that very matter of the Parliament and what you make of the 13th Parliament. A Parliament that is constituted by very many, politicians who are likely to find themselves, on the ballot come 2027 and likely to find themselves back to Parliament. A government then that you wish to head, if at all, yes, you continue with your plans, to deputize Jimmy Wanjigi come 2027. Do you suppose there's anything that is going to change in terms of how then Parliament will be transacting its business? Because then we have a history of saying that when things get bad, there's no way they're going to go back to being good.
I've said the time of legacy politicians is up.
Okay.
All of them are going to be chased. And Honorable Sankok should not blame the voter. Because at the time when the people were voting, these people presented themselves as capable. But in midterm, they've shown their greed. In fact, this 13th Parliament is cursed. It's a cursed Parliament. I don't have any faith in it.
Right.
Nothing good will ever come out of that Parliament.
Is it?
That's the truth. I never used to believe that 13 is a cursed number, but nowadays I do, borrowing from this Parliament. That 13th Parliament is a cursed Parliament, can never deliver.
Right.
Because it doesn't serve the interest of its people. Look at even today, tomorrow's dailies. You're going to see a member of Parliament claiming millions of shillings in mileage. Some of them, if you look at the mileage claims that they've presented, it means somebody has gone around the entire world 6 times in 1 year. The entire world, 6 times in a year.
Yeah.
How is that even possible? So these are crooks in office. But their time with destiny is coming. In our time, we do believe that Parliament should be a representative body of the people. And Safina Party, we are providing a platform through which the people's voice should be heard. If you're elected as a parliamentarian, your role should be representation, oversight, and legislation. If you're an executive, yours is to execute. Judiciary, you adjudicate. And each organ should be independent. We expect to have a robust Parliament that will question and hold to account the executive. So that if we are going wrong, we know that the people know that they have their Parliament that can call back the executive to order. I will not wish to serve in an administration where Parliament is a rubber stamp of the decisions we've made. Then you dilute democracy and even affect service delivery to the people. Because then it means there is nobody who is checking on you to make sure that you do everything within the law. Our Parliament has failed. Just the question that I was asked about what could we have done on the Gen Z issue.
Yeah.
I will apply our Constitution, which recognizes the right to peaceably and armed to demonstrate to all Kenyans. Article 37. The young people who expressed a desire to go and demonstrate in that church, it is their right in the Constitution. You may not like their message, but it's their right to demonstrate and to express themselves the way they do. What you will have done is to mobilize policemen to go and provide security to the demonstrators. You don't send them there with the tear gas. You don't send them there with the AK-47 rifles. You don't send them there with bullets. By the time somebody removes a policeman from a police station, they open the armory, you're giving them a gun, you're giving them bullets. What are you telling that policeman? Go and kill your people.
And I'm glad that you talk about the right to demonstrate, and perhaps we would want to assume that that is basically what we would have expected. But history has taught us not to imagine that demonstrations are just demonstrations. And remember, there's the right of these people who have gone to church to worship.
Let me tell you, one thing you're missing in this country, we have so many demonstrations. Even today, when William Ruto was going to Kamukunji, there was a demonstration going on there. People are congregating, the people who like him were congregating to show their love for him. That's a demonstration of their support for him.
Okay.
It is right. How comes when they come out to demonstrate to show their admiration of William Ruto, there is no policeman to show tear gas at them? When they are going to demonstrate against a message that is unpalatable to the executive, they are sent to policemen with guns. Whereas those people have a right to worship.
Yes.
The demonstrators also have a right. The right of those people to worship is not superior to the right of the demonstrators. So what the police will have simply done is say, fine, this is the parameter. The worshippers will be on that side, the demonstrators will be on this side. Okay. The police will form a human shield and a barrier, and you allow them to shout, to carry their placards, to send their message of displeasure.
Okay.
That is what a demonstration, by its nature, it is meant to cause an inconvenience to the norm. So that the message of the demonstrators is amplified and the cry is attended to.
Okay, it's as good as saying you're challenging the status quo.
Yes, that is why it's called a demonstration.
Fair enough.
I think even as Willie's response to that, there is a bigger question that we are avoiding here. Yeah. The question is this, that how did we get to people trying to go to the church in the first place? First of all, I think the president despises the young people of this country. That young people went to the streets last year. On 25th June, they ran to the people's house because the parliament is the national delegates conference of a country. That is the representative house of a people. If you look at a parliament, you see the people. So the people, the young people of this country, went to the house of the people to exercise their displeasure. And what did the young people get out of it? Number one, of course, initially he sounded like he really cared about the issues they were raising. But then see what has happened now. Up to now, all the issues that young people were complaining about, including him coming out and saying that he is going to come up with a law and a policy that stops people from doing harambes like the one he's now doing in church.
Yeah.
He's gone back on that word less than 6 months after he actually did that. These are the complaints that people are actually talking about. And let's just be fair. What business does the president do that can afford him the very much money? You know, businesses are struggling.
Makiu, he added some more money somewhere in...
I know, he actually did already 20 million.
Right.
What does the president manufacture to actually be able to get 20 million shillings over his own? Selling mandazi at Weston, can it get 20 million shillings that you can actually distribute?
You think the president...
let's just ask.
Do the math.
Do the math. Is it possible?
The samosas and the sodas at Weston, can they get 20 million shillings for him to actually give away, pay his staff, have it running, and give away 20 million? Let's talk about the chicken, probably the one he's actually keeping in Sugoi. How many chicken? I eat chicken. I am a KFC junkie. How many of those chicken in Sugoi does he produce? What item does he make that will give him his own money, 20 million shillings, that he can actually give it away as freely as he does? So the president despises young people.
Okay.
There has not been a Gen Z, even for purposes of just, let's talk about political correctness, either in the cabinet of the people he's brought in, even as a PS, as in they've turned those young people, they are doing tokenism.
And you think that is not forthcoming?
It's not. 6 months, these are the people who went and fought. These are the people who went to parliament. These are the people who forced the president to come to social media for the first time. But there has been nothing. He's gone back on everything. He's brought back to the office the same people, for example, people who are working around with opulence that was causing this anger. He's brought them back to government. He's gone back on every word. And what has he done? To scare them away, he's brought in Raila. For purposes of strengthening, he's sitting in. So Raila has been brought in as a scarecrow. That if you bring violence, then I have got the ancient of violence, who is Raila Odinga, and therefore he will scare the Gen Zs away. I think the bus already, the horse already bolted, and what he calls the legacy politicians have not gotten this sense.
Okay.
Because what are we doing? You go to a church, young people protest, and even just a little bit of being, and he said, sometimes I think in November or December, said that he has learned the hard way, that listening to the people is a full-time job. The same person that told us that listening to the people is a full-time job, the other day turned out and told us, if you do not have a PhD, you can't tell me anything.
Interesting. There you go. Honorable Senkok, there are county assemblies or perhaps there are wards that do not have representatives. There are, constituencies that actually do not have representatives as we speak right now. You have been a nominated member of parliament and sitting, in the precincts of parliament, just looking at the proceedings there. Just how critical is this aspect of representation for the people? And what does it make you feel to know that there are some of them that have even stayed for like a year or two without this form of representation simply because we do not have a fully constituted independent electoral and boundaries commission?
Before I come to that, let me support Willis for the first time in this show, and even my friend there. Abduction and suppressing the freedom of expression is retrogressive, unpalatable, archaic, and outdated. And demonstration, as Willis have rightly put in, is that you can demonstrate your feelings. People who came out to support the president today were actually expressing their feelings of love for the president. And in that expression, they block the roads. So Gen Z blocking the road is not a problem. Because even those who come and shout praises for president, for opposition leaders, and for people who are campaigning, also block our roads, block our businesses, and it's the same way. So for us, to use live bullets on demonstrators who are expressing the opposite of what they expressed when they were praising the president is outdated, it is bad, it is archaic, it is unpalatable, it is unacceptable in a democracy like this.
What are you people doing to stop this?
Coming to your question, because nowadays, I'm in the geopolitics, I see in Arusha.
All right, fair enough.
So, what you people are doing in Kenya, I only heard when you had the finance bill, I was in Arusha also having my own finance bill of the East African community, the 8 countries, the 1.4 billion acres of land. Now, coming to your question, it is unfortunate that today there are people who have stayed for 1 year without a voice in parliament, in a county assembly. Remember, in parliament, there are laws that are passed, legislation, and some laws favors some regions and even constituency, like the coffee bill. In any way, it does not assist us in Narok. But if you talk about the livestock bill, then it will assist us in Narok. So those who did not have that voice, that critical representation, for them either to bring in a bill that support their region or to support bills that have been brought by the government to support the region. I think for me, it was something that was not right, and I don't support, even if I'm the Kenya Kwanza. I think we should have IBC like 1 year ago or so many days ago, because it is really not good. Yes, call a spade. I'm in Kenya Kwanza, but when they do wrong, I'll still speak and say they have done wrong. And for abduction of Gen Zs, that is wrong. For whatever they are doing in terms of not bringing in IBC, whether it is parliament that have failed, whether it is the presidency that is failing, that is wrong.
All right, good. I mean, fair enough. And we come back to you, gentlemen, on the IEBC matter. You, having a party automatically would tell the Kenyans that there's interest of, fielding candidates across different, parts. Of course, we talk about 6 tiers, sometimes even to that level of the presidency. Looking at the fact that we still have an, IEBC that is not fully constituted, and we're looking at the timelines and what the Constitution stipulates in terms of, how we make sure that we beat these timelines. What does it make you feel? Do you suppose, first of all, that it's by design that we're here, where it is that we are? Is it tactical for the current government not to accord us the IEBC? And is it then a mandate of the current government?
You know, the legacy politicians are very comfortable with this current state.
Yeah.
Because some of them are facing threats of recall. So they will not wish IEBC to be there. The legacy politicians think that if you delay in constituting IEBC, that you'll have an opportunity to manipulate the next elections. I have a message for them. The day the Kenyan people will go to vote, the IEBC will not even be conducting that ballot. They will just be facilitating it.
Okay.
Because the number of Kenyans who will come out to vote, the sheer number and the sheer energy of the people of Kenya who will come out to vote, not just even to elect a new leader, but to chase away the legacy politicians, will be overwhelming. Even a 2-week-old IEBC will be able to oversee that operation. Because if they meant well for the rule of law and good governance, why did they have to force those commissioners out? And why did it have to take so long? And look at the fight. It was again between legacy politicians. They all think they want to control who becomes a commissioner.
Yeah.
They are not talking about the infrastructure of elections. They are not talking about how do we make sure that elections are done in such a way that the primacy of the vote as cast in the polling station is upheld. That is where I would have focused my fight if I was in their space. But they don't care about that. Then they prefer, I want my person to become a commissioner. I want my person to become a chairperson of the commission, so that I have an opportunity to try to manipulate how the deployment of elections will take place. But too bad. This is not 1992. This is not 1997. We are in the year 2025. And the Kenyan people are now more aware. They are now more alert.
Can we just talk about that, you know, and overlook the past experiences? We have had, you know, commissioners that have been on board for a good number, for a good time. And we saw the numerous court battles, you know, a series of constitutional concerns that were raised, you know, us pinpointing the Constitution and saying that there's a loophole here and there. Would we just sit pretty and say that despite everything, the numbers will then guarantee us a good...
You know, in the year 2002, we had an IEBC that was controlled by the ruling party then, KANU. Kivuitu was appointed by Moi in 2002. He was the one who did his elections in 97. He was reappointed to do the 2002 elections. The majority of commissioners were KANU nominees.
Right.
KANU controlled almost 11 commissions out of 20.
And so you're saying the Kibaki Tosha wave was good enough to...
The people had decided that we are now taking power into our hands.
Okay.
And the commissioners could do nothing about it. And I'm telling you, the new Kenya that we have, even if the legacy politicians try to play their shenanigans, they are going to meet a determined population. That wave, even IEBC will not be able to stop it, even if they were our instructions. Because at the end of the day, everybody is going to vote in their polling station.
Yeah.
They will man those polling stations. They will not leave. The results will be going to be relayed to us here on TikTok. We'll be watching it live on TikTok, all of us.
Okay.
At the polling station, we'll follow it to the constituency tallying centers. By the time the results will be coming to Nairobi, TikTok will have declared for us who is the president. And the Kenyan people will be out celebrating the new leaders as members of parliament. So what they need to understand is we are operating in a different dimension. Before, we will rely on the traditional channels, which was favoring the legacy politicians. This new world order that we are in is a world order where the person, the individual, the people are supreme. And the people have come up with their own channels of conversation, their own channels of communication. That is why the June 25th movement shocked the legacy politicians.
Okay.
They never saw anybody walking around town trying to mobilize people, to pay people to go and demonstrate, to go and express themselves. They just saw massive numbers in multitudes that they've never seen before, and across demographics that have never been seen on the streets. That is what will happen, in my view, on election day as well.
Okay.
You will see Kenyans in numbers that the IEBC will actually turn to be their tool to facilitate their desire.
And while Arnold Maliba, we would look at that as, you know, the people taking the sovereignty and, you know, be happy about that. I mean, what impact will it have on the Kenyan democracy?
First of all, it's important to actually just point out that in 2027, give and take, we should have about 27 million registered voters. Out of that, about 60 of that will be Gen Zs and millennials, people who literally speak the same language, because we have got 7.4 millennials alive today in Kenya and 8.5 Gen Zs. So if you put that together, you have got about between 57 to 60% of the voters then. Generally, the conveyor belt now dictates that the time of watch now is actually for those two generations to actually work together. But then, Linda, I love to remind you this. There was a stalemate on the reconstitution of IBC, and specifically on the selection panel. Did you see it featuring at KICC, for example? It wasn't there. Have you looked at it? Well, NADCO report, like I've told you, largely is BBI, just new cloth for BBI. But generally, it was not at KICC. It's not a priority. And these are the people who have taken us 2 years fighting, causing a stalemate that is not there about the reconstitution of IBC. Then, the sad part of it is that they keep on forgetting that election is not an event. Election is actually a process. And it has got a whole cycle if you look at it. For example, 2 years down the line, and we've had about 1 million people get to the age of majority every year. So we have got 2 million new people who actually should actually be people who generally need their IDs. We have got about 15 areas of representation. Those are both constituencies and wards that have not had representation. A place like Banisa has not had an MP for the longest time. They have got a right to representation, and that we have actually lived breathing normally as if nothing is happening, yet the people of Banisa do not have a voice and representation in parliament. Actually speaks to how insensitive we are when it comes to this issue of representation, and it's very, very important. So for how I look at this, the election 2022 that was conducted by Chebukati, Molu, and the others, of course, you do away with the Cherera Fall, for me was one of the best elections, because these guys simply picked the ruling from court in 2017 and made a checklist, and they ticked against everything the court said. So that then when you take me back to court, I say, last time you told me to do this, I did, because our elections are over-legislated. The electoral process is over-legislated. Even to administrative processes, we have actually gone ahead and done, of course, out of the trust deficiency that or rather dictates or punctuates the way we do our governance, informed by the past. So seeing that not even the power of the military showing up, the National Intelligence Officer, or rather director at that particular point showing up, and all those people from high places showing up to actually put pressure on the chairman, then it didn't change anything. Even when a few of the commissioners decided that, can we moderate the results? And that speaks to the word he used, the primacy of the vote. You know, when the Constitution speaks about 50% plus one vote, speaks to the primacy of the vote. So if somebody sits somewhere and says that we want to moderate, so that then for purposes of doing away with the pressure, we allow for a rerun, still it was actually defended out. So for me, I'm not really worried about what happens out of this. Because if 2022 is anything, it does not matter whether Alela Odinga or William Ruto is actually the IBC chairperson, because the people have already decided whom they are not voting for. They are not sure whom they to bring in, but they know who not to vote for.
Interesting. 30 seconds, Honorable Sankok, as you close. I mean, now that you acknowledge that we have a problem, and these problems that you talk about are critical to holding the democracy right, what way Kenya in 30 seconds?
Linda, I wish all the Gen Zs and the millennials to come out in large numbers, register, elect for us professional, ethical, and good leaders.
Thank you.
Because at the end of the day, when they elect leaders, those leaders are a total representation of the voters. So you elect bad leaders, then the voters are also equally bad. You elect illiterate leaders, then also the voters are equally illiterate. You elect people who like to talk so much, like my friend there, Willis, who called that there are people, I don't know the name he was using for politicians, legacy politicians. You know, you have also been a legacy lawyer, playing ping, pong, 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 ping, ping to us, yet he was sweating in the Supreme Court and was defeated. So the same way, he will still be defeated now that he's in Safina.
Good. Willis, 30 seconds.
All I can say is that when you see legacy politicians like Sankok reacting, then it means the pressure is real.
Okay.
And they should take note, their time is up. They have nothing else to offer.
Okay.
We've seen their best in the last 30 years. What have they offered the people of Kenya for the space they've occupied in all this time? They've only offered us pain. The total summation of the legacy politicians is the pain we are feeling today. So the pain we are suffering today is caused by these legacy politicians. And you can see how they react when they are called to account. But don't worry, their time is up. And the Kenyan people are going to elect a new crop of people, fresh, and that is not beholden to these legacy politicians. That we have.
30 seconds.
So I'd just like to tell this to Kenyans, that when you give a man absolute power and resources with a plan, he does the best of his ability. Do not think that even if you gave the Kenya Kwanza administration plus now their new brothers another term, they will perform any different. This is the best that this administration and William Ruto can actually give us. Whatever you have seen, that is William Ruto at his best. That is his capacity. He is unable to do anything beyond that because he has got absolute power, he has got the resources, and he has got the support. But whatever he has done, that is the best he can actually give you. A second term, you do not need to be beaten twice to actually know that a snake is poisonous. So whatever way you think about it, do not expect that he will be different. In any case, he can only get lower.
All right. Well, interesting. Evan says, to be sincere, in Kenya, we are Kenyans versus politicians. And in brackets, he says, Tumbocrats, Raila Ruto handshake is a loss to our country. I am young, but I happen to learn from Kibaki era. And during Kibaki's era, in the parliament, opposition was the majority, and the guy was able to deliver. He was frank on accountability and a true, transparent leader, not like today's members of parliament after yes, sir, without minding their employers who are the voters. In short, as Kenyans, we demand that IEBC be streamlined so that we take action on them. And Paul goes ahead to say, I wonder what happens with this KK government, leaders, because it is pure psychophancy. ODM and Raila at this point are becoming absolute. And Willis Kudo as well as Maliba, you are part of KK, lakini ulifungua macho. Well, interesting. Mwingine anauliza, ala, what happened, Maliba? Last time I checked, this Damascus moment, loving the show all the same and appreciating Wakili Willis. And immense feedback from you people. Just the time would not allow us to go through all that, but we say asante sana that you kept us company, and not just that, you contributed to the broadcast. It's at this very point that we have to come to a close. The last speaker of the day, Arnold Maliba, party leader, Progress Plus Alliance, asante sana, and of course Wakili Willis Sotieno, Wakili, but equally you're the deputy party leader. Yes, deputy party leader, Safina. It's important. Sometimes it's not always that you're a deputy. If you're deputizing the presidential candidate, right?
Yeah.
Okay, asante sana. And last but not least, member of East African Legislative Assembly, Honorable Ole Sankok David, joining us virtually all the way from Narok County. It's a wrap. My name is Linda Alela. I appreciate your contribution, as well as, of course, the contribution of the entire team that has made the broadcast a success. We get to see you again some other time, and equally appreciate the sign language interpreter, Rhoda Nyamai. Do have yourselves a lovely, lovely week ahead. Bye-bye. Gentlemen.